What's up, everyone? So we're on Act 4 now, and I'm going to try and stay a little bit more focused on this video than I have been in the last couple. So Act 4 is my favorite in the game. There's a lot of variety in this act. Like, every level is a lot different. You fight every enemy type in this act, and there's a lot of different environments and things like that. So there's a lot going on, a lot to talk about, and looking back at my last two videos, I don't think I've really talked about the mechanics quite as much as I wanted to, especially not as much as I did with The Evil Within. So I'm going to try to talk a little bit more about that stuff, but I don't really like plan this out or write anything before I make these videos, so I just talk about it as I think of it. But this opening part, it's pretty easy. It's just RIs and snipers. So if you have any kind of mid to long range weapon, which I'm assuming you would, they're pretty easy to take care of. I kind of wish I could use the shotgun in this run to show how easily you can rush enemies and stuff with it, because believe it or not, most sections of the game, actually every section of the game, is doable with just the shotgun. I actually know somebody who beat this game on God Hard with just the shotgun, so it's definitely doable. And again, the shotgun is just so versatile, and it has so many applications compared to shotguns in most games, so you can really get a lot out of it. And especially with bigger enemies like the Romanovs and stuff like that, like I've talked about, you can really knock them around and hit their weak points and all that kind of stuff. So it's maybe kind of a waste to use grenades on those guys because they really don't do a whole lot. They're just like makeshift shields for the other enemies, so you really don't have to use grenades on them. It just looks cool and it takes care of them really fast. And I definitely recommend getting a hold of these walkers and using them on the Romanovs coming up. You don't have to. You can just like destroy the enemies and then fight the Romanovs yourself if you want the practice or whatever. But I mean, it's basically free damage and basically free defense too, because they can't hurt you directly while you're on it, I don't think. So you might as well use it if your goal is just to get through the part. You might as well just use them. I actually don't know if firing the LFE at it damages it. I don't think it does. But if you want to be extra careful, you can obviously just use some kind of like a rifle just to like pick off the enemy. And right here, the drill Romanovs are pretty hard, but you can absolutely destroy them with these. Not quite enough to kill it, so I think I just rush up to it. Yeah, LFE. And he was doing like his charge attack, which is extremely dangerous. Luckily the LFE and I think the shotgun too knock him out of it, so it's not really a huge deal. You can also melee him. It's kind of hard to do. Sometimes the hitboxes can kind of overlap and he can hit you instead of you hitting him, but it's another option too. Or you can grenade slide him, all kinds of things. The only thing you have to worry about is when, like I said, when they dig underground, you can't interrupt them while they're doing that, so it's best to just look at your radar or look at the ground and just get out of whatever spot you're in. Just a little bit. You don't have to dash far away from it, but just get out of it a little bit, and then when they come out of the ground, you can shoot them or knock them down or whatever you want to do. This part coming up is actually, for some reason, harder than it looks. I don't know why. I always die here at least once, I feel like. But these enemies just come out of here. You can kind of be creative with like how they spawn. I would wait actually to throw the grenades. I threw one right away, and I only had one, so I probably shouldn't have done that. That first wave of enemies is easier, and then the Romanovs come out. But right here, I'm just looking at the radar, and I'm just firing the LFE through the wall, because that's one of its most important features, I think. As many important features as it does have, you need to use it. So the RIs are mostly dead at this point, which I guess depending on how you play and how you view things, the RIs could be considered harder than the Romanovs. They technically don't kill you as fast if a Romanov is close to you, especially the drill Romanov. They kill you quicker, but the RIs, obviously they can shoot you from a distance, and when you're out in the open, you're more vulnerable than you are with the Romanovs. So I guess it's how you look at it and how you play. You could probably fire the disc launcher at the enemies as they're coming out too if you want to get some decaps on them, but I of course didn't do that because I haven't been doing that this whole playthrough. And I think that's a rocket Romanovs. This is definitely one where you can just wait. You can basically just be very defensive, wait for him to do a certain thing, and then counter him. So kind of like, basically you know how most games now design their combat where they want you to wait for the enemy. That was kind of a joke, but not really. But anyway, see that? The Romanov, I knocked him down a little bit, then I hit his weak point, and then I knocked him over. The thing about hitting their weak point, which is really, really brilliant, is that, yes, it does more damage, and yes, it stuns them briefly, but it does kind of send them into like an altered state where they attack faster, and they attack more aggressively, and they tend to home in on you. So it's like a trade-off. Yes, you hit their weak point for extra damage and stuff, but you have to be careful about it. Like, let's say you have a knockdown weapon, you have the LFE, or you have the shotgun, you have grenades, whatever. You can still do it, and you can still do it comfortably, and without really a lot of fear of being killed by the increased aggression of the AI. But it's a nice twist on weak points. Again, it's kind of like how I talked about with Evil Within, how like the match system is a really interesting take on a simple finishing move in a game. This is kind of the same thing here. It's like it's very simple concept. An enemy has a weak point, and you hit it for extra damage or to stun it or whatever. But here, they take it to the next level, and it's, yes, you get a little bit of a stun, and you do extra damage. However, it comes with a trade-off, and depending on how you react and your loadout, you have to approach the situation a little differently. You have to think ahead, all that kind of stuff. If there's other enemies around, you have to consider that. So, again, not to keep sounding like an obsessive, disgusting fanboy, but this is the thing about Mikami's games that put it on another level for me, is there's these simple concepts that you don't ever really think about. They're used in very creative ways, and they're always taken to a deeper level than most games will do it. And I don't know if you saw right there, but when I was in the middle there in cover, I shot an enemy with the LFE and I destroyed the pillar. So again, that's one thing about the LFE and the rocket launcher and the laser cannon, is they can destroy cover. So it's nice that you can shoot it through walls, but if the wall is destructible, it could destroy it and screw you over. So again, one thing to help it from being kind of like super broken, and again gives it a little bit more flavor than some of the other weapons. So I was gonna wait here to kill all these enemies, but it just takes way too long, and I didn't care enough. So I let my teammates get killed, basically. I feel like a bad person, but what are you gonna do? And then basically the next level is 4-2. 4-2 all the way to the end of the game is, in my opinion, it's just like perfect. Like, it's just non-stop. Great fights and great scenarios. Some amazing boss fights. Really cool areas too. So let's see how many deaths I have so far. 186, I think that said. So that's pretty bad. I think my first ever God Hard playthrough I had 400, so I do better than I normally do. You can get all those guys with one EMP and just kills them all instantly, but I missed. I didn't throw it at the right time. But that's okay. So here, these blue RIs are going to jump you. I like to go for the grenade toss. If you get it right, you can knock them all down and then go into LFE or whatever you want to do. It's just that these ones are so mobile, I like to knock them over as soon as I can. I was going to do an EMP, but I like the EMP for the buzzard that I have to fight here in a second. So a grenade is kind of a good substitute. With an EMP, it explodes on impact, and it's a little easier to throw, I think, but the grenade, if you take the extra step to slow down and shoot it, not only do you get to also stun the enemy, but it also does damage. So you put in a little bit more effort and you get more out of it for the regular grenade over the EMP. I don't really have a whole lot to say about the buzzard. Basically, I just shoot it in the back with everything I have, reload canceling, doing a rotation of melees and EMPs. Regular grenades I don't typically use on it very much. There's that weak point in the back. That grenade attack, or just like rains grenades, it comes out kind of slow, and they take a while to explode. So I think it's a pretty easy attack to avoid. If you really, all you have to do is really boost away from it, or you could probably use the LFE or something to destroy them as they come out, just like you can when you're fighting the bogey. But here's the Argus again. So this is the third fight, but this fight, I really like this fight because of the arena, and it starts with other enemies too. So right there, I shot the LFE at its leg and just destroyed it instantly. And look at all that damage it did. That did 80% of its health with one shot. Now, I don't know if that's just how much it does or because it was in slow-mo or what. But, again, that just goes to show the LFE is amazing for this enemy. So, again, that rocket attack that it does, that's pretty hard to get hit by. So as long as you're moving, you're basically in the clear. And I'm just rushing over to enemies and hitting them with the LFE. Right there again, if you don't kill it with the LFE, he's going to be knocked over, so it doesn't matter. Just switch to your assault rifle or whatever else you have and just clean up real quick. And I'm going to do the same thing to the Argus that's standing. One shot was enough to knock it down. And then I'm going to go in and hit it with the heavy machine gun because for whatever reason, hitting the LFE doesn't seem to do as much damage to this form of the Argus while it's weakened. And I don't know why, but I still have it almost dead, so it doesn't really matter. And I think I missed that shot, but I'm just going to do the same thing. Just try and whittle down its limbs, and then go for the weak spot again. Almost died right there, so you got to be careful because the Argus does a ton of damage. And when it's standing up, it has like the little turrets all over it, which it has when it's on four legs as well. But it tends to hit me more when it's standing on two legs, so you have to watch out. If you want to get up close to it, it's a lot more dangerous, but you can still do it, obviously, because I just did it twice. So, and then when you fight this form, he does this like huge laser attack. All you have to do is just get out of the way. It's pretty heavily telegraphed, so we don't have to worry about it hitting you when you don't think it should hit you or whatever. I mean, it's very obvious where it's going to go. Alright, so that was awesome boss fight of the chapter number 1. I don't know if you want to count this as a boss, but I'm going to count it anyway. So here's the second awesome fight. So we have a few spheres who, like I said, even if they're rolling around, so when they're fully armored, if you hit them with a disc, they just die in one hit. So they're basically, like, they're not a threat at all. And then I'm using the disc launcher on the enemies up top, which really, I don't know why. I guess I could just use the heavy machine gun. But there's going to be two Bias that come out of that door, which is I don't even know how to describe them. You'll see them. You know who they are. If you've played this game, you know what I'm talking about. And the disc launcher is really good for them too. It's basically, like I said, it's good for pretty much everything in the game except the bogies and the Argus, as far as I can tell. Even, I guess maybe the buzzard too. It's probably not very good for that. I mean, it would work. It just would be pretty inefficient. So they start on two sides. I like to wait a second, throw a grenade in the center of them. Again, this stuns them, knocks them back a little bit, and it hurts them. It doesn't do a ton of damage, but it does enough to be noticeable. Like to the point where if I didn't throw them, I'd have to be shooting them pretty considerably longer, and I may have to risk running out of ammo. I'm basically just hitting him with the LFE, and I want them both to kind of cluster together so I can hit them both at the same time with the LFE or with an EMP. But the LFE does stun them. It doesn't matter which form they're in. And so does the disc launcher. Again, I don't know if I knew that about the disc launcher when I did this fight, but it will stun them momentarily. Enough to where if you want to shoot it, boost away, get some distance, reposition, get some new cover, find ammo, whatever, it actually helps enough to where you can do that. You can also melee them with it, but they attack so fast with their melee attacks, I don't really recommend it. You have to really have your spacing down, and again, the hitboxes can kind of get weird, and they can kill you pretty easily with their melees, so I don't recommend it. And they fire those little missiles, you can shoot them out of the air, which I definitely recommend because they stay around and shoot you. So they're little missiles that shoot at you. And you definitely don't want them while you're trying to take care of this enemy who's already pretty annoying to deal with. Not annoying, like, it's a bad enemy. Like, annoying how hard it can be. So, definitely I would just do that. Like, as you can see, the LFE is just like, it's basically just a free way to buy yourself time. And whenever it crawls on all fours, I like to get behind cover. As you can see, it did that kind of like shotgun blast from its tail. Very hard to react to for me. I don't know why. It's hard to react to. It moves quickly, and the melee has a lot of range, so I like to stay behind cover and just watch it. If I can pop out, get a good LFE shot, I will. And this is awesome fight number 3. So we have snipers, romanovs, and then it's going to be followed up by a tank. So I like to take care of these snipers because they can take you to danger right away, and if you leave them go, I don't even think you can really survive this if you're out in the open and the snipers are alive, unless you kind of bring all the romanovs over here like I'm doing now. So I have them all together, and I try to get them all with a grenade, but they weren't really lined up right. And one went underground, but he went in the opposite direction, so I didn't really have to worry about it. And I'm just pushing them further and further away from me, which now they're both going underground. And all I have to do is just watch the radar and just get a little bit of distance. You don't have to travel too far because you still want to take control of them and really control the battle. So if you get too much space, then it doesn't help with that. So knock him down on his knee. I got some good shots on his weak point, did a lot of damage, and that took care of him. I just need to clean up the rest of the trash here, and then the tank will spawn. Or, well, no, there's actually one Romanov left. But he is distracted by one of my teammates, so I can kind of relax for a second. Now he's going underground, and I knew he was coming for me. But now I have LFE ammo, so I can just absolutely shut him down. And that's another thing, if you boost kick off of them while you're still in the air, you can see their weak point. It's the same thing with if you have the heavy machine gun or the anti-armor pistol equipped, and you do the melee, which is that backflip, or that kickflip or whatever, you'll be just above their weak point, you can see it. Especially if they have the anti-armor pistol, you can zoom in and hit it, and it's really, really convenient. So again, these blue RIs are going to rush you. They're very mobile. They don't have too much health. They have more health than your average RI, but not enough to be considered like an elite enemy. Like right there, I killed him with one LFE shot. So you have to control them because they come at you right away, and at the beginning of the fight, I just threw an EMP right at the wall, basically, because obviously it'll go through walls and surfaces. So I just threw it at the wall to try and get myself some safety there. And I need to take care of these turrets because otherwise they're gonna melt me, because the turrets absolutely will annihilate you on caught hard. So I would say you have to take care of them. Unless you have the rocket launcher or something and you want to shoot at the weak point from a distance, I would say you have to deal with the lasers. And not the lasers, the turrets. And the reason I said lasers was because I was going to say, if you're using the lock-on lasers, it's very easy to just shoot at them. It'll take care of it for you. One of the many uses of the lasers that I like. And right here, he's focused in on me. And the tanks will destroy cover really quickly. Like in the time it takes for them to aggro to you, and then they come over to you, usually they destroy the cover. And then when they charge you, that really destroys the cover. So basically, you have pressure from the tank, and then there's a big windup for their charge, which is like a melee. And then that's when you have time to get away and get new cover. The only problem is, if you have the turrets still up, you're going to be shot while you're moving from that cover to new cover. So that's why I say, well, one of the reasons I say it's important to take care of the turrets right away, because if it goes to charge you and all the guns are still on there, you're probably going to die. That's why I would say, honestly, just don't let it charge you. Like, if you're really cornered, I would say, like, let's say all the guns are still on it and it's charging you and you're kind of in a corner. Just throw an EMP at it and get to the nearest cover. Then you can kind of reposition, get a new strategy going. But definitely at least take care of a few guns on the tank, because otherwise you're probably going to be screwed. And there's 2 enemies up top here. I don't remember what I do. I think I just kind of safely pick them off. I think I go up here and actually, LFE them through the floor. I think I knocked him over. I knocked the one over, and now he's on the ground and I didn't realize it. So that's pretty funny. I don't know if that's ever happened where I've knocked an enemy in a way that it actually put me more in danger. So that was kind of weird. But again, you never know what's going to happen with this game. All kinds of goofy, unpredictable stuff can happen, which is one of the reasons it's so great. So this part's really easy and really short, actually. You get introduced to the Crystal Viper. I think the Crystal Viper is a good enemy. I just think it was kind of a wasted opportunity that there isn't more of them in the game. There's only 2. You fight one here and then one in Chapter 5.1, and that's it. I think if they were placed in more different environments and different kinds of level design with some other elite enemy types, it would have pushed the fights with them a little further. I find that fighting them by themselves, they're pretty easy. Like the Bias, you fight 2 of them at a time, and they're pretty challenging. And then you have the other bosses like the Argus and the Buzzard, which are great fights. But the Crystal Viper by himself is pretty easy, and I just feel like there's not enough to him to justify him being alone twice. I do like the fact that it's another enemy that really, you can take cover for some things he does, but overall it's an enemy that encourages you to move freely a lot, both in and out of cover. Plus, is very mobile. He runs pretty fast, and he changes targets a lot, so he's kind of unpredictable. Like, he'll be focusing on your teammates for a while, and then he'll charge you, which is kind of nice. See right there, he shot his lightning attack, and I used cover, but it destroyed the cover. So again, it's kind of dynamic. You can use cover on him, but it's not really something you want to focus on, because it's not going to get you very far, especially when he charges at you and he does his attack that initiates a quick time event. Yes, I know, there's a quick time event in this game. Boo-hoo. Anyone who cries about quick time events all the time, find a new complaint, okay? There's worse things in games. But anyway, I said earlier how I wish that the Crystal Viper was fought with different enemy types. Yeah, you fight him with RIs here, but usually I have all the RIs dead or close to dead by the time he spawns, so... But, see, he has a lot of different attacks, and he's aggressive, and he's mobile, so it's cool. He like lifts your teammates up and throws them down, which is kind of interesting. That attack goes through walls, I believe, and that's the charge that initiates a quick time event. That one you can get out of with just a boost dodge. EMPs work on him, and then I honestly don't know how staggering him works. I don't know if it's damage based, if melees do it every time or what. So not only can you stagger him, you can also knock him over like I did right there. So again, one thing I like about this enemy is it just encourages a lot of movement. Oh, and then there's this thing, which I always forget about. That's like a different quick time event. That attack is really rare, though. I've only seen that maybe a handful of times the whole time I've played this game. I mean, I've put probably a couple hundred hours into this game at least, and I've almost never see that. So that's the other quick time event. It does a lot of damage. You honestly can just fish for it if you want to just hide far away from him. Not necessarily behind cover, but more just hiding a good distance away from him and wait for him to charge you, and then just mash square, and you'll basically just get it because you don't have to really time it. It's kind of lame, but I mean, whatever. It's kind of what happens when an enemy has a quick time event attack like that, especially one that deals damage back and it stuns him. So it is what it is, but I don't think fishing for it in that fight really works that well. It's more what I do when I'm doing Challenge 6, when the Crystal Viper's in the first wave. But anyway, this area is really cool too, but this part's also really short. You fight some Romanovs, and then you fight an unknown at the end, which again is an amazing enemy that I love so much. But I just completely destroyed that Romanov spawn with that grenade and then meleeing him. That's another thing I like about this game, and I think I talked about this a bit with The Evil Within, is that I typically am not a fan of games where you see the enemies spawn in, because then that kind of encourages you to just learn their spawns and just destroy their spawns, which is okay in some instances. Like I talked about with The Evil Within, it has some of that, and it works well with the crossbow, because it's kind of made for traps. But I don't like games that rely on that all the time. This game's kind of the same way. It has a lot of enemies already in the levels, but it also has some spawns, and it also has weapons that really are great for big AoEs and for stunning enemies and knocking enemies over. So it mixes it up, and it has the variety, and it has the tools to work well with it, I think. And not only that, and in The Evil Within, I think I talked about this. Yeah, you can, completely gimp some of the spawns, but you have to use bolt types, which are extremely valuable. In other games, something like Doom 2016, what, you just used the shotgun or whatever. I mean, how valuable is ammo that you can just recover endlessly? Not very. And same with this game. Yeah, you want to use grenades and LFE shots for spawns, which are extremely valuable. So it's a little different than just spawn camping something in a game where ammo doesn't even matter. But anyway, disc launcher and the EMP, and right here I just like annihilate him. Just because so many things just break him apart. And I didn't really use the disc launcher correctly right there. It's really, from what I can tell, not really useful to use it while he's already like disassembled like that. Like when he's already broken down, there's really no point in using it. It's better to use it to break him down, from what I like right there, and then you can go into a grenade or a melee or whatever. Okay, so I did a lot of damage when the fight started, and then I kind of fell apart. And I don't know how that LFE shot didn't hit him, but oh well. That's all of Act 4, so a lot of stuff happened in a little bit of time. So next is Act 5, which is really short, and that's the end of the game, and I'll see you there.